Well, I was supposed to use a bullhorn for this, but we will say it is time to start what we call our emergency communication hub drill, right? We have everybody ready, we have our hub set up, we're ready to go. If you have time afterwards, stop by and pull a misfortune out of our box, and we'll see if we can respond to you. So with that, we'll go ahead and start the official ceremony.
Excellent. Well, thank you for calling us to order, Cindy. And I've taken my notes out of the notebook so that they fit on this little teeny tiny lectern that they gave us. Good afternoon. Flooding, severe weather, landslides. You know, you don't think of disasters on a day like this or emergencies. It's a beautiful day in the Fauntleroy neighborhood of West Seattle, but they threaten our safety all year round, and they threaten our well-being. And as county executive, my duty extends to disaster preparedness for more than 2 million people across Martin Luther King County. A year ago, I launched Resilient King County. And it's a 2-year initiative to build a high-level, long-term recovery strategy for the entire county. And this month, I will transmit to the County Council our update to the Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan, which includes almost 700 actions that we'll take to reduce the risks of hazards unique to this region. However, to truly succeed and be more resilient, each and every one of us must do our part to be strong and ready, and to help ourselves as well as to help others. That's why I'm especially proud of the work done by those of you gathered here today. Now, here in Seattle and King County, we've had a few years of relative calm. But we've been aware of profound catastrophes going on really very nearby. The record-setting fires just across the mountains, the Oso tragedy. Disasters happen on an ongoing basis, and emergencies happen on an ongoing basis. And we want to be prepared to do our part for our community and help others as well. I know that many of us have watched reports of those incidents and thought, there before the grace of God go I. Like you, I also noticed that in those and many other emergencies, the very first responders are often neighbors helping neighbors. And that's why I'm pleased to recognize the Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs, an enthusiastic group of volunteers who support quick response and robust communications during emergencies. Founded by a coalition of neighborhoods, including West Seattle, in response to the Hanukkah Eve windstorm, for those of you who remember that one, in 2006, this all-volunteer system of disaster information hubs has grown to more than 50 locations across the city of Seattle, including 16 pea patches. So from Chill Shoal to Lake City, from Cal Anderson Park to Queen Anne, from Rainier Beach to right here in Fauntleroy. These hubs act as a clearinghouse for information and a focal point for community organization. Whenever there is an emergency, these hubs will instantly become the focal point for neighbors who are looking to get good information. The hubs can let people know where the shelters and food and water are going to be able to be found. They can communicate with other hubs via radio. And they're able to request services directly from the city. With engagement and support of the City of Seattle over the past 8 years, the development of the Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs has really been truly remarkable. They've hosted dozens of drills and trainings with hundreds of participants taking part in simulations of earthquake, volcano, and severe weather emergencies. They've conducted neighborhood surveys to determine what resources are available and where they can be found, and they've worked tirelessly to build relationships with local businesses, churches like Fauntleroy UCC right behind us, and nonprofit government agencies. I will say, you know, part of my job, a lot of folks see me doing this and nothing else, but a lot of my job on a pretty ongoing basis is going through emergency preparedness work, tabletop exercises, and other levels of preparation with networks of folks, county employees, and others. But in all of that, it is constantly clear that one of the most important things is to have people in the neighborhoods where they'll be able to immediately begin to help neighbors and community members to keep things calm and orderly, to make sure that people have access to the services they need immediately. And it's very, very reassuring to know that not only are the emergency communication hubs in place, but that this is something that happened because we saw a problem and decided to solve it, that you saw a problem and decided to solve it. It was not a decade ago that we had that windstorm. And I think it is a very, very good example of the kind of work that this community can do together. Taken as a whole, these partnerships and the accomplishments serve as an example of how King County residents can help build more resilient communities. And one of the most important partners in getting the hubs off the ground has been our City of Seattle government, which has supported and nurtured this concept since the beginning. So I'd like to ask Debbie Getz, the community planner for the Seattle Office of Emergency Management, to say a few words. Debbie.
Thank you, Dow. Good afternoon, everybody. I am so thrilled to be here to see this recognition being bestowed upon a group of individuals who, in my mind, are the walking, talking epitome of preparedness. As a preparedness educator, I did that for about 8 years. I had the pleasure and the privilege of working with many of the individuals that you see here today, the very self-described and aptly named hubcaps. And they really make this network fly, truly. I watched them as they put together their first initial Hub Go kits and were writing out signs, to now creating full-fledged drills, multi-dimensional, including so many other community members. They're gathering resources. They are doing everything that really is above and beyond what we would ever asked, and we've not asked. It's like this is something that they've self-initiated, which is tremendous. And so they really practice these plans. They implement the skills that we know will be so vital when Seattle experiences its big disaster. And so now, in a planning capacity here with the city, my vision of a prepared Seattle would be a hub in every neighborhood. And my goal would be to clone you guys in a way so that every neighborhood in every language and every culture would be able to have a way to connect and to share information and resources and to be able to do the problem solving together that you collectively have done and built and grown over these past years. And as a local government, we know that we will have our hands full the day of our big disaster, and we know that we do not have the resources to get to everyone who will need help at that time. And while we do all that we can to educate and train and help people plan together for all kinds of disasters, realistically, we know that often, sometimes just getting yourself and your family organized for a regular day is a challenge, let alone how monumental that task becomes during a disaster. And so, as you heard Executive Constantine refer, here in the United States and around the world, we do see that it is literally the people around you that will become your first responders. And what this group has done has really raised the bar for neighborhood preparedness and for self-sufficiency. And that is why, in our overscheduled and information overloaded world, it is really important to take the time and to take a moment to recognize the impressive work that this group has done and to say thank you sincerely to each and every one of you. We truly could not be doing this as a city without you. You are really the heart and soul of preparedness of what's going on now in response. And I know you're going to be really vital in recovery too. You just don't know that. But, the steps that you have taken and how you've managed and grown among yourselves. And I appreciate so much the ability to work in alignment with you and in partnership with you. And I see great things ahead in our future. And I know that emergency managers all around would kill to have a group like you. And so we here know that we here are so proud of you and so very grateful for the significant contribution that you make to preparedness and resiliency and self-sufficiency here in Seattle. So thank you, truly. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Now I am pleased to be able to present the 2014 Executives Award for Community Preparedness to Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs. Accepting on behalf of the Hubs is someone who is familiar to you, longtime organizer and co-chair, Cindy Barker. Come on up, Cindy. Okay, this is the good part because it has whereases and therefores in it. You ready? Whereas it is in the interest of all communities within King County to develop the highest level of competence in planning for, responding to, and recovering from emergencies and disasters. And whereas the Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs have grown from a single hub in 2006 to over 50 hubs today in neighborhoods across Seattle. Whereas Seattle Emergency Communication Hub has been established and staffed by volunteers who have donated thousands of hours of time and energy to the task of preparing for disasters. And whereas the members of the Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs have worked tirelessly to identify, anticipate, and answer the needs of their communities during times of distress. And whereas the Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs serve as essential local centers for gathering and disseminating critical safety and response information. And whereas the members of the Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs have supported the efforts of the City of Seattle's Emergency Operations Center by developing competencies in many emergency response capabilities. Now therefore, I, Dow Constantine, Executive of King County, do hereby recognize the Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs for their superior performance in preparing for emergencies by naming them as the honored recipient of the 2014 Executives Award for Community Preparedness, and I encourage all residents to follow the example set by this community partnership. Congratulations.
And I do get to say a few words of thank you. And I especially want to point out everybody in the audience who's in a vest is one of the people who is either a hub captain, a volunteer with our hub group, one of those committed individuals. Thank you so much for this award, Executive Constantine. It really means a lot to all of our folks who work tirelessly on this. And I want to talk a little bit on behalf of the hubs about our relationships and our partnerships that really bring this to bear. And if I have, one of the things you may not recognize is that one of your previous awardees, the Vashon Be Prepared group, was one of the groups who came and talked, at least out in West Seattle, and I think to other groups, as they created their program. So what they did provided a foundation for a lot of what has transferred into our program as well. So that was one of those first partnerships that we made that has helped us go forward and be successful. And as you mentioned, the Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs, our goal is to act as connectors to help assist neighbors, help neighbors. And another part of the role is to also be a connector to give situation awareness to the city and other agencies and to support them after a disaster as they are trying to create the plans that will bring relief to the neighborhoods if that's what's needed. But that neighbor helping neighbors part, that sounds so deceptively easy, but what we found is it really isn't. It takes a lot of thought, it takes a lot of preparation, and it takes a lot of partners to set that in place. So at a county level, we've made connections with some of those other partners. We've drilled with the King County Public Health Reserve Corps. We work together to try and understand what their role in a disaster is and how they can assist in our role. That's a really important relationship to nurture because that's going to be a big one for all of us after a disaster. We have a great partnership, as Debbie said, and Sue was so, I thank you so much for the nice words on behalf of the hubs. That partnership with the City of Seattle is really essential. They provided a lot of information and guidance to us, which is an all-volunteer, non-professional organization. We really are just trying to be neighbors helping neighbors. She's helped us make connections in with some of the departments that affect the neighborhoods. We have resources like parks, the Department of Neighborhoods, and we want to have the good connections with police and fire so that we can assist in the response that happens after disaster. And we also have an essential partnership with the city's Auxiliary Communication Corps, which is the radio group that responds down at the Emergency Operations Center. And our partnership with them will help facilitate the communications that has to happen from the city out to the neighborhoods and hopefully from the neighborhoods back into the city. But our strongest partnerships really need to be down at the community level. Every one of the hub captains and the hub volunteers are key to making those connections. Their businesses are where they need to connect. Their neighbors are where they need to connect. Their places of worship are where they need to connect. And their service organization and volunteer activities are where we find those connections and people come to the cause and say, I can be a part of that response if I need to. They may not drill with us every time, but we know they're out there and know the essentials of being prepared for themselves so they can help their community. So the people that are here today, they're the ones who are the catalysts to be prepared at that community level. They are so dedicated and passionate about what they do, and it is so uplifting to work with a group of people because that is what they do. We form a community across the entire city of Seattle focused on community preparedness, and we help support and hold each other up, learn from each other, help each other, share lessons learned, and go out and have a drink once in a while because that's just what you need to do when your drill didn't go the way you thought it was going to go. So that preparedness, that community, that response capability is what we're all about. I am so proud to be a part of that group, and I'm so proud to be representing them today. So thank you so much for the recognition on behalf of all the people involved with Communication Hubs. Thank you.
So I want to thank everyone again for being here today. It is, I was mentioning my role as executive. One of the things that I think about when we're having these tabletop exercises or drills with our emergency preparedness and our emergency management folks is that in my role, I'm required to leave my home and family and neighbors and go to a remote location to help manage the situation for the entire county. It's very reassuring to me to know that we have and we're growing a network of hubs that can help our neighbors. It will be something they have to worry a little bit less about when that inevitable emergency comes. So congratulations to everyone who has supported this amazing organization. Congratulations once again to Cindy and Seattle Emergency Communication Hubs. And thank you, everyone, for being here today and for all the work you do year-round. Thank you very much.